Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I, Shipra Kakkar,
And I am Ridul Rana.
welcome you all to the second session of Erudition 2016. The theme for the session is Analytics of Things, the Next Big Step.
Analytics is among the biggest buzzwords around at the moment, as it touches all aspects of life. In a world driven by data, analytics plays an important role not just in businesses, but in healthcare, sports, weather, etc. In broad terms, analytics could be defined as collection of data and using that data to generate insights that could lead to a better decision making.
Large volume of data is generated and this data has become indispensable. Thus, analytics finds its importance in business applications such as consumer insights, buying behavior, product analysis, competition, pricing analysis, and many more. Businesses which see data as assets and use it are seen to optimize their process and perform much better than peers.
We are honored to have with us today an extremely diverse and esteemed panel. It is a pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished panel members. We would like to welcome our first speaker, Mr. Devendra Chandani. Sir is Associate Director, Data and Analytics Division at KPMG. An alumnus of MDI Gurgaon, Sir brings over 10 years of diverse marketing and analytics experience working with India's leading service providers in the space of analytics and consulting. A few of his past employers include SAP, Analytics Quotient, and Absolute Data. He has deep experience in areas of marketing, CRM, and pricing analytics and analytics solution. He has excellent techno-functional skills and has interacted with national and international clients to create and implement customized strategic solutions to meet their varied business needs. He has exposure across telecom, FMCG, and retail domains. We welcome you, sir.
We now welcome our next panelist, Mr. Vikash Kumar. Sir is currently the Chief Digital Officer of Trident Group India. He's a digital media professional with more than 7 years of experience in field of digital marketing, online marketing, mobile marketing, programmatic advertisement, strategy development, corporate strategy, and many others. During his MBA years at IMI Delhi, Sir has won more than 25 business plan competitions across India and represented India at Stanford University U-Beat Camp after winning Asia's biggest B-Plan competition held at IIT Mumbai for his tech startup. Post-MBA, he joined Trident Group and kickstarted their e-commerce business from scratch. He has been recognized as one of the top 50 most influential digital marketing professionals in Asia-Pacific region by CMO Asia and featured in top 15 chief digital officers in India. We are pleased to have you with us, sir.
Next, we welcome Mr. Saurabh Khanna. Sir is currently Associate Vice President at eValueServe and has 15 years of experience in leading analytics, consulting, social media, and market research assignments across US, Nordics, and India in different verticals. Prior to eValueServe, he has worked with E-Trade New York and GE Analytics. Sir's primary focus is marketing and customer analytics solutions such as predictive modeling, segmentation, text mining, and social media in both B2C and B2B space. Also, by being a GE Greenbelt certified, Sir has led a couple of re-engineering assignments in the analytics and research space. We are pleased to have you with us, sir.
We're also pleased to have amongst us Mr. Sayantan Bose. Sir is currently DGM Global Business Services in Consulting, IoT at IBM. An alumnus of IMT Ghaziabad, Sir has an experience of 16 years across domains of IT, telecom, government PSU, manufacturing, ITES, and BFSI. Sir holds expertise in the areas of entrepreneurial sales management, IT outsourcing business, product and services-led opportunities, business development, business profitability, and executing business plan focusing on IoT smart cities in India. Previously, he has worked with Xerox, HCL, Reliance, Airtel, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, and IBM. He also has experience of rolling out industry IoT solutions for telco first time in India. Sir has also undertaken assignments for clients like Microsoft, Aircel, Ministry of Defense, BSNL, Axis Bank, and many more. We welcome you, sir.
We would also like to welcome Mr. Japtet Singh Arneja. Sir is an alumnus of Department of Business Economics, University of Delhi, and is currently a specialist in Bain & Company's Advanced Analytics Group, a global team of advanced analytic experts and data scientists equipped with the state-of-art techniques, tools, and technology. Sir provides advisory and hands-on support to clients and Bain case teams worldwide on advanced analytics and data science solutions, and also contributes towards Bain's advanced analytics expertise in general. He has extensive experience in an area of analytical and data science techniques and toolkits, and specializes in advanced statistics, heavy data engineering, and database management. Prior to joining Bain, Sir was a part of marketing analytics team at Cognizant Analytics. We are pleased to have you with us, sir. We now invite Mr. Vikash Kumar, the moderator of the session, to take the discussion forward. Over to you, sir.
Hello. Yeah. So a very good afternoon to all the students. I understand this is a post-lunch session. So we'll try to make this session as interesting as possible. Trust me, this responsibility of being a moderator is not the chosen one. But I'll still take that, since I don't have to answer any question. I just have to ask it. That's the easier job. So I'll start with Devji. आप अगर ये बताएं कि IoT or AoT, like if you can just define these two terms for us, that will set the background of the rest of the session.
Okay, so hi, hello everybody. It's very difficult to put in words what IoT and what AoT means. But to put it simply, anybody who's got a device which is transmitting any sort of data and it's connected to any kind of a grid, whether it's a Wi-Fi, whether it's to some other device, these together they form Internet of Things. Now whether it's a B2C kind of a device, whether it's a B2B kind of a device, whether it's a sensor in a manufacturing organization, and making sense of this data which is coming out from all these devices is called analytics of things. So that's in short how I would define IoT and AoT for everybody to look at.
So EY actually predicted that by 2020 we will have 50 billion devices linked through either intranet or internet. And they are actually Internet of Things, which has its own repercussions, which means a lot of data will be transferred between these devices. A mind-numbing numbers I'm actually here talking about. How you see, sir, that how we can refine this data and start making some sense out of this?
Thanks, Vikash. Hello, everybody. I mean, it's interesting, actually, if you see what Dave also said. It's a question which came from Vikash. Whatever we actually do, we are doing right now, if I say, I mean, 50 billion devices getting connected, but however, what we as from an industry right now, when we actually face the business challenges, the questions that are thrown to us by different companies, I would say from an analytics perspective, it's starting in the fragmented level. It's not really happening that people are talking of, even call it like 1 million devices have been connected and the information that we as such are getting it. So we start with like, we are getting the data or the business problems that we get it is, for very simple, I've been actually talking to panelists before, and it all says that when we say preventive maintenance, so machinery, heavy machinery, let's call it, how can actually a company, like a heavy machinery company, can actually start thinking of preventive or prescription analytics that we call it. They can tell initial level, say 3 months ahead or 6 months ahead, what particular part will go off. Now, that's the analytics we run. At the behind the scenes, there is data, which is a sensor data, which is a text data, which is from multiple areas. actually, or call it the devices, which is actually get collated in a particular format that we actually start to use it. Just to the other example, I think definitely, is the social media, right? To give that example, when devices getting connected, multiple devices, there's social media coming in picture. I lead also social media, so that's why it's coming up the whole point. There is tons and tons of data in the social media platform from different channels of social media that we actually have to evaluate, and we see it on day-to-day basis. So it's getting complex, more and more devices. Let's see, our job, or I'm sure the techie guys in the panel, their job is to simplify the data that is there and make it more meaningful.
Sir, very insightful answer. I'll just give you one example of Trident Group. Trident Group is world's biggest terry towel manufacturer. We make 1 lakh towels per day, which is possible when 5,000 looms run 24/7. And the operator who's actually using those machines are not even 12th pass. Now, there are a number of inventories, spare parts I have to keep to make sure that the production is not stopping. So how I can make that happen? Of course, if I somehow get a system in place which will process terabytes of data in real time to predict that when this machine is going to stop, how much spare part I should keep in my inventory so that the machines which we bought from Germany should not get delayed and my production should not stop. So that's where the analytics actually comes in. Since the data is transferring, I think security would be the next question which should come in our mind. What if this data reaches my competition? Or anyone can use this data for their own use? I think, Anton, you would like to answer that question?
Yeah, just hi everybody. So data security is a concern area now. Is going to be a more bigger concern in future. I guess all of you, most of the people using fit bands, health bands. There is connected cars. There are smart meters in your houses where the electricity is consumed, and there's a data in there. There are a lot of IoT devices in the market. So security is most concern area, and our government is also doing a lot of steps to secure all the data. So there are protocols which is being standardized. They are setting up the policies to standardize the protocols of the devices. There are companies who have logical algorithm in place to secure that data. Now, we are a very notion stage. I mean, we have just started using IoT. We are actually, seeing the benefits of IoT, and analytics is most critical part of that IoT. Without analytics, we will not be able to get any benefit out of a connected car or a fit band or anything. So if you see, we need to have that ecosystem in place where we have a standardized protocol to secure our data, to give a maximum coverage out of this data, where we equally secure our data as well as we get the benefit out of this analytics. Now, how we can do that? We have to hire a competent organization who uses those technology to secure that data. So there are various companies, there are various organizations who have actually given reports to our government where they can actually use logical algorithms to standardize that product. So this is one area we should do, and this is a early stage. I mean, there are smart cities which has been rolled out pan-India. There are companies like Cisco, IBM, Wipro, HCL, Airtel, Reliance. All of these companies is just going gung-ho about this. They are applying their business senses to get the market share, to get more profitability out of the deal. But government is trying to standardize that security measure, so everybody should follow that protocol. The devices should follow the protocol. There are Chinese companies coming up with cheap devices. So there is an IoT device of a connected vehicle telematics or a Fitband, which is manufactured in India, could be cost more, whereas a Chinese device could cost less. What is that secure to India? Is that the question? No. The answer is no. They have to follow a protocol. They have to follow a standardized protocol, which will be laid out by Government of India. Is it in place? The answer is no. So there is no standardized protocol that this devices or this organization should follow this protocol. But probably we hope that in future it should have that in place.
So, so just to add to what Shant has actually just said, so first question just comes, why exactly we want security? And after that, we address what exactly we can do to get the security. So IoT is big. I mean, Vikash just mentioned 50 billion devices by 2020. Some, like our company's estimated 20 billion devices by 2020, but that's a lot of devices. If we think about those devices, I mean, in the earlier years, there was internet and there was just a PC. I think going back 15 years, we just were connecting our, probably like 10 years probably, like we were just connecting our PC to the internet. And that was all about the connectivity of our house. Then came the mobile devices. I mean, right now, everybody might be having like 3 or 4 mobile devices at home, and they're connecting those mobile devices. Think of each and every device in the next 10 years connected to the internet, and that's going to be a lot of devices. And the problem is, sensors and the transistors are reducing in value. The cost is reducing. Just to give a sense, why exactly Internet of Things exploding is the sensor cost has reduced from around $1.5 to around $0.6 in the last 10 years. So it's like greater than 2x reduction in cost. The amount of the cost of transistors has decreased from $527 per 1 million transistors to just 5 cents for 1 million transistors at this point in time in the past 25 years. So that is the amount of reduction in cost we are actually seeing in the hardware implementation. The challenge now is how exactly to secure all these devices, and why exactly it becomes important are due to some of the very important reasons. So IoT could be as simple as like a Wi-Fi chip basically installed in a Barbie doll, which is actually communicating to a central server and getting some real-time data, like what a Siri does and stuff like that, to kind of interact with the customer on real time. Or it could be as complicated as like what exactly BMW or the Googles of the world are doing in terms of developing cars, self-driving cars. So in case somebody gets a hang of it, I mean, what happens in case of that, if in case somebody just hacks that connected car, and it could just play with our lives. So that is why security becomes very important. There are opportunities, but there are definitely watch outs, what exactly we should do. That is reason number one. The second reason would be because I think that a lot of people actually talked about, fellow panelists actually talked about that there are some standards being set up by the government and things like that. Obviously, we should have definitely a fixed protocol, because the standardization has to go hand in hand with the upgrade in technology and the upscale in technology. But we should also be concerned about the fact that if a single person is able to hack just one chip, he has the ability to kind of replicate that into like millions and billions of chips that are installed in all those devices. So it's like, it's basically the hacking can be replicated across devices. So that's another concern. The third concern is that a lot of these IoT applications are into the industrial sector, in which we see big machineries like HDTV camera just kind of focusing on a production environment and just checking whether everything is going right or wrong and stuff like that. And I mean, that's one example, and there could be so many examples. And these devices are have been made to last for like the next 15, 20 years and so on and so forth. Think about your laptop or a computer. You might just change it every 2 years or something. But machinery equipment, you would not change for the next 15 or 20 years. So you cannot really have that kind of security going for the next 15 and 20 years that nobody is able to hack that. So those are the challenges actually. And that is why we need like a full, robust kind of technology to kind of go along with it.
Thanks.
So I have a slightly different take here. While we're talking about data security, we have to also look at it that what kind of data are we talking about? We've got a group of young people there. A lot of them would have hashtagged what they ate right now in lunch, right? They would have hashtagged where did they go yesterday or where will they be going tomorrow for Sunday. So in that case, if they are if you've kept your life open for everybody, right? You're telling them what you're doing in the morning. Telling them where you're going, how you're going. That's the data which is going out to everybody. So how would you create or how would you secure your data from them? You put in your smart TV on a grid, telling everybody, saying this is what I'm seeing, this is the amount of time TV I'm seeing, these are the channels I'm watching, these are the ads I watch, these are the ads I change my channel onto. So what kind of security are you looking at? The biggest, look at some of the data which our government has made available. Aadhaar data is available. You need a ping. You just need to register with them and then you can ping that data and you can do the authentication. CIBIL data is available. You again need to register. You can get out CIBIL scores. Obviously, they check that you are a certified financial or NBFC institute, but then that's not something which is big and that would not be the deterrent, right? So I can always get an NBFC or a financial certificates and then I can go to CIBIL and get your scores. So going ahead, I think a lot of this data would start coming into the system. There's no, except probably for financial data where an individual can be identified saying, yes, this is Devendra, this is how much money he owns, or this is what he does. Okay. If most of the people are today ready to share their life if you just remove their names and faces from it. Right? Nobody has got an issue if you're tracking them 24 hours. So Truman Show was made about 20 years back. If it's made today, people would say that's very normal. I myself am putting my whole life on the net. So as long as individual identifiers are removed, financial and confidential data is removed, more and more we would move towards open data. Today, your traffic, the amount of traffic which goes in, how the lights are controlled, everything is open into the system. Netflix threw its data open about 7 years back when it created the Netflix $1 Million Challenge, and it said anybody can create an algorithm better than mine, I'll give them $1 million. Can you imagine 17 people won that challenge? 17 people won $1 million from Netflix. They created better algorithm than Netflix. Obviously, none of them was implementable in a real-time kind of a scenario, which was a condition they missed while putting up the challenge, but that's a different story altogether. So companies are regularly going up and opening up their data. If tomorrow Trident Group says, this is my manufacturing data, I am going to keep it open, this is how my machines run, they just have to take a case whether it makes sense for me to put it open or not. 99.9%, it would, if it makes sense, you would put it open and then it's there for everybody to see. Because what happens is when you start sharing your data, others also start sharing their data. It's not today about a company versus a company. It's about a group of companies, an ecosystem versus an ecosystem. Today, Airtel shares all the financial transactions which happens with a lot, Airtel and Vodafone, they share it with a lot of financial companies. These financial companies use this data as a substitute for CIBIL scores. So today, if I don't have a CIBIL score, I'm a daily laborer, but at the end of the month, Airtel can tell me he charges about 200 rupees a month. It's very easy for other financial institutions to find out that he might be earning close to 5,000 rupees because he can spend 200 on telephone. So companies are more and more sharing their data. They are making their data open. And I think that's the way the world is going to progress. They are going to say, okay, this is fine. These are some of the conditions which I would remove. I would remove the name. I would remove his phone number. Other than that, please come and take a look at all the data I want.
Would you like to add something, sir?
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. Just to adding what actually Dave said and just to put in the context, and 2 points actually. First point is I agree, more and more the data is getting shared, and the key definitely is anonymization of the data. So that's your personal private information is not actually shared, your privacy is still maintained, protected. The example I would actually give for the youngsters here, because they've started with the hashtag part of it, and I tell you, like, there is a company, you guys can actually Google around and search, it's known as Foursquare. Foursquare is a US-based company. It's a location-based analytics that they do. And see the beauty of the amalgamation, call it, right? The data of social media, the hashtags, for example, that you guys would have done it or you would have checked in on a Facebook. So it happened actually in US. So people used to go to a restaurant called Chipotle. Chipotle is kind of a Mexican restaurant in US. It's a chain. And people used to go actually to Chipotle in California region, and they used to go there, and people used to check in, I've come to Chipotle. So that's one data input feed which used to get generated. The other feed, which this company called Foursquare, they actually was tracking is the parking lot, how many cars are actually getting parked in the parking lot. Is it typically available parking or is it not available? And basis these two, call it a stream of data, which is social is Facebook, the other is parking, how much parking is happening. That's what they connected these two data. And basis this data, they went ahead and gave this data to the investment bankers on the Wall Street. And the investment bankers saw this data on the Wall Street that the Chipotle per se in the Bay Area of San Francisco is having less of footfall throughout the retail chain. And basis of the investment bankers actually calculated, oh, their sales are going to dip by 30% in future. So sales are going to dip. The investment banker is not going to put money on Chipotle, as in terms of options and call-outs there happening, and they didn't do it. And this became it's a pretty good, few of you might have read it, but it's a very, call it a ideal example of how what we say it, in today's world is what is different data, alternative sources of data that we need to help the financial service back to, say, the Chipotle restaurant owner, that what you actually needs to do. So just wanted to give a context of if it helps you from hashtag to the financial industry, how people are actually leveraging that one particular data that you generate.
Thanks, Saurabh. I think as an individual, I would agree with these two. I can actually use my data to my own advantage. In US, if you haven't taken any loans in your past, you're paying all your bills on time, you will get loans at much less rates. Imagine that you have a data of your car. It tells you that how smooth your drive is. You follow all the traffic rules. Why don't ask discount next time an insurance company come to your place? This can also be applicable on the sports watch. It has all the data you have. You need to tell your insurance guy, I go for a walk 20 minutes every day. I have a good night's sleep every day. I'm a healthy person. Why don't you charge me less for my insurance policy? This could be an application. Companies are thinking about it. In India, I think it will still take another 3-4 years to get this thing implemented by insurance company. Of course, whenever insurance company needs to give discounts, they will take their own sweet time. Anything on this? What other application you can think of IoT and
Vikash, your $1 million idea has already been implemented. In fact, Aviva in Europe has put in the app where they say anybody who's taken Aviva car insurance, please put in our app. The app measures the speed at which you drive, the speed at which you take turns, the speed at which you immediately put in your brakes, and based on that data, your yearly insurance is calculated that what's the amount they're going to charge, right? So your $1 million idea
has been taken away. Oh, shit. Yes. I'm late.
So I just robbed you of your $1 million. That's no problem. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, you all would have heard, a lot of people would have talked about the fact that mobile phones killed alarms, right? So that's passé now. It's about one kind of data being used. So I talked about how your car driving insurance data is being used. Saurabh talked about how parking data is being used for calculating the sales. It's about finding those other indicators which can actually lead you, or which can give you those, or what we call generally as leading indicators in these kind of scenarios, right? It's very easy to sit today and say, yes, Dhoni did wrong. He should have probably not given the last over to somebody and we would have won the ICC 2020 semi-finals, right? But can we do it ahead? Can we do it sitting 5 minutes before that over? Can we look at the heart rates of all the players and say, okay, whose heart is more calmer and I'll give it to that person? It's about those leading indicators which today people are talking about.
you are talking about decision based on data rather than intuition or the gut feeling.
I would
And
still,
if
I would
the
still
data
believe,
is available, we should must use it.
no, I would still believe it's the gut feel and the human factor would always be there. Rather than putting in $20,000 and getting predictive analytics, you should ask the machine operator when it is going to conk down. He'll tell you much more accurately. But yes, so obviously we've talked machine being one side, data being one side, human being one side. So all these three need to work together, right? But yes, it is going towards a way where you'll start looking at, okay, how can I make these decisions pre-hand, right?
Okay.
A lot of these things have been done outside the system. We've been doing analytics for last 10 years now, but all these have been stopgap arrangements. All these have been outside the system. More of these things will start going into the system, more and more into the real-time kind of a scenario.
Okay. You were about to say something.
Yeah, so data-driven insurance, which Dev was telling, I have been associated with two automobile companies where we were trying to launch UBI, usage-based insurance, data-driven insurance. How you drive your car, it analyzes your pattern, and then the insurance company put your premium according to that. But when again, is the insurance premium company have started in India? The answer is no. The reason is IRDA, the insurance regulatory in India, has not approved it yet. When they will approve it, there is no timeline about it. So there are roadblocks. So when is the technology, the ecosystem is in place, the companies are reaching out to the organization. Here, this is the solution. You can launch a UBI or a data-driven insurance, which is there in US. You can do it in India. And this is the way you can do it. But there has to be a process and policies in place, which is not there still now. We hope that probably the government will approve it. The insurance company will start rolling out in India. The companies will be able to do it. This is one.
Okay, so my next question is from Japtesh. I'm a big fan of Iron Man. Imagine you can have your self-driven car, but what about traffic signals? What about other cars who actually don't follow the same standards? It will be chaos everywhere. So the next question is, of course, if the success behind World Wide Web is a common standard followed across the world. I can communicate with any other device. Why? Because they follow the same protocol to transfer data. So how you think this can be achieved despite all the cheaper Chinese product which would be least concerned about these standards to be followed? Because the success lies when my Internet of Things will start communicating with Internet. So,
yeah, so that's a very valid question. I think we were discussing about this when we were talking in the room before this this session, and I think they have actually rightly pointed out that there are multiple levels of communication. So one communication has to happen from your connector in the device to your internet, and then the internet algorithms which are existing can flow out. So definitely there has to be some kind of a common adoption. I mean, security obviously goes hand in hand with the mode of communication. So we definitely have to have a common adoption of that. Governments should play a role, I would say. But that's, I think, a lot of ideation is still taking place as of now. There hasn't been a common consensus, but I think Shayan should be in a better position to kind of tell you what technologies should be going in the market. But I think in the future, what we talk about is vehicle-to-vehicle communication, machine-to-machine communication, engineer-to-engineer communication, and so on and so forth. So I think communication protocol has to be standardized. I think that's of critical importance.
Yeah, yes, I agree with Japtej here. So standardized protocol, earlier I also mentioned, standardized protocol is one thing, but you know, the open standard is an area where we all start with, and then we follow a process or a policy to standardize a protocol. So MQTT is one protocol which most of the devices follow in India, and it is standard with all IoT platform. So all the devices are connected to a platform. So there are multiple IoT platform available. So MQTT is one protocol which your connected car or a smart meter or any of the asset tracking devices which follows. There are other protocols available, but this is one protocol which most of the organizations like Cisco's, IBM's, Oracle, Intel of the world are going towards, and they are standardizing that protocol.
Dev?
I am not the right person to answer this, but what comes to my mind is the movie Terminator, where Skynet takes over the whole of the world. And how is that possible? Because Skynet is able to talk to everybody, and there is probably definitely going. If we go towards the standard protocol, I'm quite sure Terminator is going to come true very soon. So I would not advocate that. Let's not have standard protocols. But movies aside, I think there are two layers to whole communication. One is how the device in itself communicates. So a device, if you look at it, it's made of set of chips. There's a processor chip, there's a camera chip, there's a touchscreen chip, there's a communication chip, there's a Wi-Fi chip, there's a Bluetooth chip. What has happened is, while your processors and your memory chips are different, the Bluetooth chips, the Wi-Fi chips, they are more or less the same. It's you would be surprised in the end. It comes down to 2 or 3 companies manufacturing it, one company writing the software for it. And if it's just one company writing the software, they generally follow the same set of pieces. Given that the communication between devices has been so old that nobody would want to change it and stand out and take that business risk. We talk about a lot of mobile phones, but if we step back and look at the B2B kind of a scenario or a manufacturing plant, I think the first DCS was set up in 1970s. DCS is when you have sensors and then it comes to a single system. So it was set up in 1970s. At that time it was analog, passing through wires. But last 15 years, everybody's got sensors and the data goes out digitally. There are no wires through it, right? If Foxborough is doing it, if Blue Star is doing it, these two are the biggest manufacturers. Anybody else who's going into the system has to do it, right? So today, no matter what happens, if Android is your biggest OS, iOS is the second biggest OS, nobody would launch a third OS into it, right? Whosoever goes into it is in for a big fight. So unless somebody like a IBM or somebody like a government of US decides to create their own OS, it's going to be very difficult. So you would generally go with the standard set protocols, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, actually this sparks again another use case that I'm going to highlight, which is insurance security of data. I know all the panelists, and which is right way is like you have to protect the privacy and the data of every individual needs to protect it. But the use case which I'm actually giving you an example which we faced is also was it's basically the insurance clients. A lot of people do claims, and when they are actually they file claim with the insurance company, the basic first aspect of for an insurance company is to understand whether the claim is genuine or not. And how do actually they figure out whether it's genuine or not? And to actually give you a perspective here, it is such a field or an area of importance for an insurance company because there are billions of dollars on stake, whatever when they have to do the payout of it. So they even, again, sorry, example of United States because they probably are pretty advanced in all of this application, but they hire, the ex-CIAs and FBI agents who actually go through the filed claim forms by an individual. And when actually they do it, they just not going through the claim, whatever the claim is, they also go into different data platforms, which we call it actually as a term like is a social network platform. But they actually go to pages of individual on Facebook, They go to the telecom companies like AT&Ts and Verizon out there, and they ask for their data of which, if they are able to, they get it or not. But definitely the Facebooks on the page, from the Facebook, they actually try to see who all are the connecting friends, alliances of these people are. And when they actually figure out, and they have definitely the list of the past fraudulenters, so if they get that this person who has filed a claim, if he or she is anyway distantly also related with somebody who had committed a fraud or a crime in the United States, they actually then link it back to them. And then that becomes a trigger that, this guy who has filed a claim may or may not be saying a genuine thing. So one way, it's definitely, as a principle of fact that we have to protect the data, but on the other side, I've just thought of sharing the example of insurance and data application of how it helps actually in us in analyzing it and giving value back.
So making sense of data and saving saving the losses or increasing the revenue. I'll open the panel for question asked from students now. Yeah, so we can start from back. Your mic? You can take one of the mic from panel. You're not. Yeah? Get this. That will be the last. Yes.
One topic we can pick it of challenges related to IoT implementation, technology, data, like what we discussed. Any other topic after the question? If it doesn't.
So when we talk about big data and data analytics per se, we're talking about a very high level of privacy infringement that can happen here, as we saw the recent controversies with WhatsApp and Apple, where people had apprehensions about disclosing their data and it getting leaked. So again, we also need to probably address here the problem of high profile and confidential data, which can be a threat to national security being leaked as a result of this, because essentially what big data does to people is there's like a camera following people all day, every day. They know where they're moving, what are their patterns of movement, their transactions and everything. So in an age where information is power, how do we prevent the misuse of this data, and how do we ensure that the proper protocols of data collection and security are followed? Considering when it comes to superpowers like US, all of our data is at the disposal of FBI anytime that they want it. So how do we ensure that all of this data that these organizations collect and our patterns of movements and transactions are actually secure?
Dev, would you like to answer that?
Hello. Am I audible? Okay. So I'll go. There were lots of questions involved in what you asked, right? But if I get the gist, you are a little bit worried about how do you protect yourself from your data not leaking out, right? The simplest answer is shut down your phone, go to a jungle, live in a cabin log. To be honest, let me just complete. So, and that's the only answer, because in today's world, while we've been, internet has been a bane, it's true that all your data is being siphoned off to somebody else or the other. What can be done here is, and it's up to an individual to be intelligent in this case. It's nothing to do with industries. It's nothing to do with people. There is nobody who's bad. There's nobody who's good, right? If your data goes to FBI and you've done something wrong, yes, it's bad. But if your data goes to FBI, they see a pattern where they may be able to find out that, yes, you are in some kind of a distress, and they can come and help you, so it's good, right? So it's on an individual to see that how can they ensure that their privacy remains. As far as some of the other bits are concerned, we talked about government and role of government and the regulators. That would be the key piece coming in the coming time. Your financial data obviously is very, very secure. Okay, your health records are very, very secure, especially in India because they are on a pen and paper format. They are still not digital. And your personal data, which you can tag as personal, would be secure. As far as government goes, they have made their own regulations to ensure that these data, they remain secure. Anything outside of that, it would be up to you to ensure that it does not go to the wrong people, or you are not able to, or you are not transmitting it.
Dave, this what we are discussing today is on the day when we have reported to have biggest data theft ever by Yahoo, and I think Saurabh would like to add something on it. Please change your Yahoo passwords, by the way.
So, I mean, I know what you actually asked the question, and probably this is not a question, to be honest. I mean, this is a question which, for at least our generation, is happening for a long. And I think being in the industry, what more and more the comfort zone, frankly, it comes up is, this is the future. Monetization of data is the future. That's what you see now in Reliance, what Reliance is doing here. They're going to bang on the monetization of the data, and they'll give you free voice, right? What Google has been doing, it's monetization, and it's can assure that, I can't assure it, but however, we know it that whatever the data is being used, your patterns being used, or you get marketing or anything, it's more of from an aggregated, anonymized level that it actually happens. So it's not, there is where, when it comes to a person, right, when the Apple WhatsApp issue happened, when it comes to a particular person, that's what is non-negotiable by the companies. They don't allow that. But whatever it uses, it's being used at an aggregate level. So I think the fact is that we have to live up with, this is the future, and my data is as equivalent, available to anybody outside whatever the second person is. So we are living on the same page. That's what it is.
Next question. Last. We are starting from last, and then we'll come forward. Yeah. Yes, you. You, yes. Yeah. Your mic? Do you need a mic? Okay. Yes. I think healthcare sector is one of things on my mind which actually doing this. Would you like to answer this?
Not me precisely, but it's all smart cities. When you say, actually, it's not just like, it's probably the language which is being, the word which is just being used as smart city. However, if you actually go down and see across, it's smart lighting, it's smart home, it's smart parking, it's smart your home appliances, which are being actually, so everywhere in every industry, to say it, right, it is actually ground up level. If you see, it's all that is getting integrated, right? But however, mostly being talked about a smart transportation system. But what is actually people or the companies are trying to do is connect each and every part of your house, your wearable, or whatever in your office gets connected. So probably I didn't get your question also very properly, but if it was related to the industry, different industries coming together on the IoT platform, so that is what is happening, and that is what actually companies are trying to go for.
One obvious answer is Google Maps real-time traffic. It's using your device position, how fast you're traveling, and tells you that you may find a huge traffic ahead. So it's been implemented. We are using right now internet for that, but sooner or later we'll use devices put in your car to do the job for us. Next question.
Okay, so healthcare is one of the area where IBM is looking to invest a lot, already invested. To give you a perspective in this is Watson, which is IBM's artificial intelligence supercomputer, which has been launched in India in Manipal. We are trying to implement that in Medanta, Medicity in Gurgaon. This is an area where IBM has already invested, still investing, and the result is huge. I mean, there has been report in all the print media as well as in the digital media, where all the panel of doctors, I mean, in the healthcare, were actually getting benefited of, the data is being analyzed by the Watson. And this is one area. Second is the platform for the startups, which has been also an area where IBM has already gango about, and they are also helping a lot of startups to come to their Bluemix platform, which is an cloud environment and the IoT platform, where anybody, any layman can actually use an account. They can develop their own IoT application and host it on the cloud. They don't need to have or invest on any IoT platform. So that's a leverage, an open standard. They have already done it. They have invested on that. They are ready to, work with any device manufacturer, any application provider, any startup where they have an innovation in place. They are ready to work with that. In fact, I drive it from the India perspective. I'm working with at least 10 to 15 startups where there are a lot of innovation in place, where we are partnering with them and trying their innovation to take it to the enterprise or a B2B level or industry level.
Yes.
Sir, I would like to know, when I talk about remotely connected devices, there are mainly three aspects: the memory of the device, the processing speed, and the battery life. Two of which have been seen a lot of revolution in the past decade: the memory and the processing speed. But the third aspect, which is the battery life of the devices, hasn't grown much in the past decade. So according to me, before the boom of IoT devices happens, there has to be a boom, or you can say a growth, in the battery life of the remotely connected devices, or I think it is a prerequisite. So do you think both these things can go hand in hand, or first a revolution would come in the battery life of the devices, then IoT devices will be?
So the question is that, please correct me if I'm wrong, that your battery life of remotely connected devices are not upgrading or keeping up pace with the kind of process or technology we are inventing in IoT. Is that the question? So is there any challenge we see in the battery life of device itself, which is supposed to communicate the data, right? Yeah.
Yes, so it's a pure designing aspects of that particular hardware. So there are a lot of hardwares which has been, which has to do a lot of upgrades for their firmwares and the softwares. There has been a design flaw for the embedded technology in these IoT devices earlier, but now the companies have moved ahead. The larger companies or organizations are actually acquiring smaller hardware embedded design companies who are actually manufacturing those IoT devices, be it a smart meter or a vehicle telematic devices. Yes, I admit there were problems earlier on the battery issues, but now things are looking better. The devices are much powerful than the earlier version. The reason is that they have actually taken help of the better embedded designing.
I think Bluetooth charging could be a solution, no, at least in near future.
It is mostly on the designing of that particular hardware. When you design, you need to know what is the capacity is going to work on, be it power consumption or transmitting the data. So this is the first design, the embedded designing of that particular hardware needs to be decided how this hardware will be formed.
Sorry, look at it this way. If you charge your phone full, it would probably last for 6 hours, the amount of usage you have. When I charge it, it lasts for about 1 day. When my father does it, it lasts for about 2 days. When my mother uses the same phone, it lasts for 4 days. The same phone, the same charge.
The usage is the key.
Yeah, the usage is the key. Now imagine you just have to send out one blip of a signal in every 5 minutes. So it's going to last 20, 30 years, the same charge which you have in your phone. Right? So while, yes, you've talked about batteries, it's more with the B2C kind of scenario where you're talking at. The moment you go into a B2B kind of a scenario where sensors are there, which is what Sayantan also pointed out, the embedded systems have become so well advanced that today the average battery life for a sensor would be 8 to 10 years or more than that. And I think that's a good enough for a battery to last.
So imagine if your device can tell your Bluetooth charger that your battery has gone down by 20%, it will automatically start charging. So till the time I am not able to reduce the amount of data I'm transferring through those devices, I don't think there's a real-time hardware solution to this. Right? Next question.
There's just one point to add here is a lot of companies actually just go far. I mean, start what the exact, I mean, some company in the US just started a big data cloud and they are sourcing data from their smart meters because they are actually into the business of distributing electricity to customers. And they don't absolutely know what kind of analysis they want to do on top. So if they start backwards, so the kind of data they were aggregating is like the smart meter would send a signal every 2 seconds to the Teradata cloud, which will record a lot of parameters, and they would use that to predict whether there's a fault happening or not. And when we came in that case, and we thought, I mean, a 2-second data frequency is not that much required. So even if it would have been like 30 seconds, I think that would be fine. Even 1 minute would have been fine. I mean, 30 seconds, I mean, we could really predict like 30 minutes before or like 15 minutes before the transformer is failing, because there will be some signals going until unless it's not drastic. Similarly, like there was a company in the US, which was, South Africa, which was into the business of telecom, and their trucks would just go and repair faults along the way on their antennas or something. So the company's trucks the GPS transmitter in that truck would send signal in every 2 seconds about its location. I mean, that's not really required. If the truck is on road X 2 seconds before, it will be on road X 2 seconds after. So you can also think about how to make that system efficient and not exactly tracking it up from the battery perspective. So you can make the operation more effective. And the third could be like, your trigger should happen only when some contingency has happened. I mean, suppose there's a camera which is looking at your production day by day, and 99.99% of the time it's not doing anything because nothing is happening. Only when some particular trigger happens, only then you want probably the video recording to happen. So you can actually, beef up your systems to kind of capture data at will rather than all the time.
Yeah.
My name is Vikash.
Good afternoon. Okay.
As we talked about efficiency, there is big data buzz is everywhere. I mean, the volume of data generated by the Facebooks and the Googles of the world is mind-boggling. So as the amount of data company is buying. But there is a research which says the amount of data company use is only 10 to 15% of the data is usable for analytics or customization. So my question is, how to increase the efficiency or effectiveness, or how by differentiating or transmitting and keeping the data which we require, which the only data which we require for the analytics.
Yeah, so this question again flows back to, I mean, it's not that if we are just processing 10 to 15% of the data, that's a bad thing, because probably that's a better thing because we don't require the 85% of data, which is just mundane and monotonous. I mean, it doesn't give much information. Just to give you like an example, techniques such as edge analytics, in which you can say, my 80% processing should happen on the device, and I do not really want to use my connectivity bandwidth to transmit the data. So just thinking on those lines, I think there will be always noise in the data, so you definitely would need mechanisms to separate that. And then 85-15% maybe ratio probably would remain forever. You can think about improving your mechanisms to kind of track the data in as efficient manner as possible to basically separate out the garbage from the insightful data. And I think out of that data that you in fact transmit, you have to make like another filter layer on top of that to get to the insights. But I mean, it has to be approached both from the perspective of making the data collection as efficient as possible, and also transmitting that data only that we require. So, I mean, it's not that you would always need 100% of the data. You would definitely need only X% of that data, and that would be useful for your use case. So I think just approaching that from that perspective would be my sense out of it.
Can you hear me? So just to add that, I mean, so that's actually an absolutely right answer. Now, actually, let me honestly explain or tell you actually the funny answer to it. So we all talk about big data, and amongst our, like Dave, we all have worked together in whatever 10 years and all. We always talk about, okay, there was big data, big data, big data. We all used to get bogged down every day now that, oh, there is big data, right? We have to do something. We definitely are doing something. We invest, we work out and all that. How the funny part is, we always keep on thinking is, okay, there used to be small data that we used to work. Now it came to big data. Where is the middle data? Right? So the answer is, what you found out is absolutely correct. And I would say, still the industry, we still work on the small data. The big data is definitely, call it the wow factor, the coolest thing in the industry. Definitely companies are investing, companies are working on it. But with the larger portion of it, still it is a small data, which is being processed, which is actually, what is important is, are you able to give an insight, an impact, a big impact, right? Whether it is a small data or whether it is a large data. I mean, yesterday I gave an insight to a payment provider, and the insight to them is like, they is a US payment provider, and they were like, we have a lot of dissatisfaction coming us from our customers. Looking all everything, the biggest insight that we are given it is like your 60 to 65% of your premium affluent customers that we call it, they actually are dissatisfied. So I can tell you that's a big bang that I have given the insight to the organization, and they're going to ponder all the CXOs going to ponder upon it for at least for next 15 days, come back to us, ask us to give them the lot of level information of data to them. So what's important is that it's the small data which actually gives insights. Big data is coming up. The analytics aspect of it, it used to be very good. I mean, people, if you follow some trends, 2-3 years back, it used to be big data analytics, right? The fact is that big data is separate from what is analytics. And the theory also goes, some people say actually big data could not have got this much of pulse since the motivation to call it like people investing on big data had they not used word analytics along with it, right? So it's good, but is it really working with companies, is helping? It's still not clear to us in last 5-6 years.
So I always say one thing. It's not about the whole syllabus you study. It's about those 5 questions which you study before the night that's going to take you through the exam, nothing else.
Thanks, Dev and Saurabh. Yes. We'll come back to you. Yeah, first. Okay. Self-driven car insurance. That seems an easy one. See, if you actually want to be in a situation where you will put your life on a system, assuming that it will not crash with the next car coming behind you, you have to be 100% or even more sure that the standards in place, traffic signals, the sense the people are driving around you actually understand that this is the gravity of the situation where my life depends on it. I don't think in near future this is implementable. Even in US. So I'm sure insurance company have their own algorithm to judge the risk factor, whatever discounts or rate of premium they offer to an end customer or even big company. They calculate the risk based on different factors. Here, of course, the risk factor could be that what all companies are making those cars, what are standards they have followed to implement all the protocols, what policies government actually adopted in the traffic rules to make sure that accidents are next to impossible. So all these risk factors must be included to give a quotation or a premium offer to an individual. Anything else you would like to add, panel?
So if I get the question correctly, so you're talking about driverless car insurance, I mean, and also like switching on to manual. So I'll just talk about driverless. I mean, with driverless, obviously your protocols and everything would be standardized to a great extent because the driver's intervention is minimum to a large extent. But I think it will also, I mean, the onus of having a safe car would fall back to the X number of manufacturers who are producing those cars because you are not in charge of handling that car. But at the same time, probably some mechanisms as if like this car was, I mean, when you think about that car, it will be intelligent in telling its customer whether I'm in need of some service or something like that. So if it's actually saying that and you're not taking it to a service, I would say in that condition, the insurance company could get that data from the manufacturer in case he commits that fault or something like that. But I think with those self-driven cars, the premium variance would be much less as compared to what we are seeing right now.
Dave, you have actually mentioned Aviva have done something similar, not for self-driven car, but
so if I get the question correctly, you are saying how would the insurance company find out the difference between self-driven car and the person driving it, right? So if I am manufacturing a self-driven car, I will put in a simple touch sensor into the steering wheel, which will tell me whether the man is driving it or the machine is driving it. And I will just need to capture that data. So depending on how much amount of time the man is driving it, I'll create my premium according to that. See, it's not going to be that suddenly tomorrow the new the new model comes in and everything is going to change. It rarely happens that way. It's going to happen over the years. Right? You're going to start getting some set of data coming into it. Even if it suddenly tomorrow happens that government says, no, tomorrow everybody's going to go into a self-driven car. Please shut down all your manual cars. Insurance companies are smart enough. They would say, fine, I'm going to triple your premium because anyways you have to take that car and the premium from me. So first year you're going to pay through your nose. The second year onwards, they're going to dip down the insurance premiums. So it's going to be a small and slow ride where it's going to go, right? But where it would end up, and like Jagdeep said here, it's gonna probably end up into a situation where each and every bit is going to be monitored and company is going to just analyze that huge set of data coming into it and start changing their premium slowly. It's not gonna be a one-bang exercise.
So in all, actually, this adds up more work to the analytics person, right? We have to create more algorithms.
That means more business, Saurabh.
Yeah, actually, that's mean more business. Thanks for that. That's the beauty of it. So it's definitely possible to do it. It is not. I mean, and think from a perspective of statistics itself is the binary thing which you actually spoke about, right? how would you create a scenario, two scenarios, one scenario self-driven, the other is man-driven. So you actually create, so it's a binary logic which actually is from statistics perspective you have to create.
I can give you one reference point which we can use here. If you have ever bought a sports bike, insurance company charge more percentage of premium because crashing that bike have higher percentage may or may not be true, but data in the past say so. So the matrix, the parameters will change. The premium or would way of calculating would remain more or less same. Next question. Yes. I don't think I'm the right person. I don't love HR. True.
Well, that's a difficult call to take. In corporate world, you should not, indulge in any bad habits or unappreciative about HR. You have to appreciate HR.
I love
the
HR.
best part.
I hope this is not recorded.
You never know, somebody will get asked into your company next year. So, I mean, people analytics perspective, the HR human definitely employee analysis, what companies try to do it, whether it is even at the recruitment stage, which we try to profile the candidates and actually try to see that if they fit into the culture or the cultural perspective within the organization employees. So we typically call, when we say it, like we do profiling or persona identification of the candidates basis on some psychographics and other questions. Second, I mean, you know it, I mean, this is the attrition aspect that we all keep trying to predict who likely to attrit or what are the factors are going to actually influence the key drivers that we say for attrition. But the other angle, what I'm aware of or have looked into is from a procurement perspective, right? Procurement as a, for any B2B company per se, is one of the key areas of focus. So if they are dependent upon the workforce. So when they're dependent on the workforce, they always look forward the help, the business guys or procurement managers, they look for the help that can we help them in anticipating that, say, a particular season or particular event probably may happen that they need to be aware of so that they can do the work planning for the workforce in advance. So that's the area which, like, from a social media also we keep getting it. So we try to look into at a general larger level scope of it, how's the macroeconomic or how's the social pulse of a particular region area is happening. Is there, for example, is there any strike likely to come up in that particular region or a country? If yes, then that becomes an alarming signal for the procurement guys of that organization to be prepared for. I'm not sure if any other examples, I'm not, but if somebody can add.
Yes. Dev?
I didn't get your first question, so I'll answer the second one. Okay. Predictive analytics and what are the problems being faced? I could list down 233,000 problems for this. I mean, I've been doing it for last 8 years, so I know what are the problems. Yes. So, oh, everybody, each of them is the biggest problem. Trust me. I think if I have to drive it down, I can simply break it into two pieces. There are only generally three pieces to a component, which is people, process, and technology. Right? Technology part is generally sorted off in today's world. Technology is rightly available. Our friends from IBM have created Watson, which is going to make it much more easier for us. It will be down to basically, and the biggest piece would be here people. Right? In the end, analytics is it's like a software. It follows GIGO, which is garbage in, garbage out model. And who's gonna ensure that you're not feeding garbage into the model? It would be the people who are driving it, right? I've seen people do such blunders. I mean, me and Saurabh were working together, and there was one interesting project where one of the biggest consulting firms created, not Bain, sorry, somebody else created a model where 95% of the data was missing for a variable. And what they did, they imputed it with 0. Imputed is wherever it is missing, they put in a 0 in it. And the model was to find out the propensity of purchase, right? And it said purchase from a store. So if you stay near the store, you are going to definitely purchase from there, right? If it's a Walmart is closer to your home, you're going to purchase from that. And they've imputed everything with 0, 95%. And they said 95% of your customers should come back again to you. Which is absolutely wrong, because what they did, the person who ran it, they imputed it with 0. So it's the people are going to be the key challenge, not only from the perspective of who will be able to do analytics, but also who will be paying for analytics. I mean, I've been selling analytics for last 3 years in India, and people come to me and say, please do some analytics for us. And I have to break my head with them for days and days in and days out. I don't know how can I do some analytics for you. It's not kheer or it's not lassi that I can give you one sip and you can try it and then see it's right or wrong. Right? Analytics has to solve certain set of problems. So right from people who are going to consume the results of analytics, as well as people who are going to provide that services, I think people are the biggest challenges in today's world.
Yeah, and just to add, Ashish, so what Dave mentioned, the project, right, 95% of the imputation was done by 0, so we worked together on that. But the whole point, actually, the people point also, it's the critical point is not of, statistically learning anything. The key is application of it, right? Somebody certainly who had done this work has educationally had that education, of statistics based. But when it comes to, and you said business analytics, so there is a difference. It's two words, business and analytics, right? So it's just not analytics application, just not like going ahead and applying a statistics equation on it. You have to understand the business. So the challenges that we face with is a lot of times when we see the reports or the analysis done by different companies, not to say that we are superior, I'm not saying that, but most of the time we feel that what happens is that we see a equation has been implemented and a result has been, the throughput has happened. Now we don't understand that why this equation and why not the other model to it, because so that's the thought process. I mean, in a sense, is important is not what you think in a one go straight away, it comes to your mind, okay, apply that is necessarily going to work. It is not the answer. You have to try 2-3 things, what fits well to a particular data, that answer. So that's why it becomes more challenging to call it when Dave said it. Actually, there are many challenges, it becomes more challenging there. Now, if I simplify the problem here, we personally call it like what data challenges, if I say here, not analytics challenges, which they've answered. There's tons and tons of data we are talking of. The tons and data is the aggregation of data. Now for the aggregations, the aggregators basically call it the big data platforms, the Hadoop, Apache and all, we actually go and use it. The other problem that we have is which is what interest in my preview has happened is companies want to use text data. Now text data, is it from a preventive maintenance of machinery's perspective, is a log which got generated. Log is a report which a particular engineer, the site engineer would have generated it. So they come to us with the problem that I can give you this data. Can you actually help me in improving the predictive maintenance part of it, apart from the sensor data? So the text data is something which is unstructured data, which is a problematic area to simplify and make it more insightful. So would stop there with that one point.
I have an interesting story to tell. Dave just said, people are the problem. I'll just tell you. In Trident, we are the biggest supplier to Arvind Mills. So there's this interesting story. There's a complete lane of looms which used to produce yarn. In one particular batch, there are 3 batches every day, 8-hour shift. So in night batch, there were few issue with the machines, and that initially the issue was with 2 or 3 machines only. In within weeks' time, that same error started showing in all the machines in near about area. Would you believe what actually was happening? In the night, workers, of course, 10th or 12th pass, they used to use paper because it's so hot in weaving area that you need to get fresh air. They used to put a paper in this spindle so that it will rotate and work as a fan, which was making the spindle giving less twist to the yarn, which was making yarn less stronger. So how you can handle that? So we have analyzed that, okay, the problem is not with the machines. It is the near about area. We actually put a camera and we saw that this is what's happening. So machines are much more reliable than people. Yeah? Next question? Yes. Yes.
My question is somewhat similar to what one of my friends just pointed out. As we know that after the data that we receive from the IoT devices, a lot of that data would be chunk data. So what are the possibilities of getting the useful information after the analysis of that IoT data that is somewhat relevant to us? And secondly, IoT being a relatively new concept, so do most of the business houses nowadays have the infrastructure or the pool of talent to turn that big data into somewhat practical information that we require?
So how we can process a huge chunk of data and make sense out of it? Is that your question? Would you like to answer that?
So I can take the first shot. So yeah, I mean, definitely connectivity is a big challenge in many countries. As of now, the global connectivity is greater than 25%. It will shoot up in the coming times. But definitely, I mean, in the US, you don't have like custom IoT plans for connectivity. Like you cannot really send tons and tons of data over the bandwidth. That would really cause you like a big amount of money. So you definitely need to filter out the data at the edge, at the device itself, what exactly you wanted, what exactly you don't want. For example, you would just make some predictive algorithms running at the device, which would say, this data is not really what I require, and this data is something that is really triggering something. And then I want to analyze that in my cloud infrastructure. Somebody sitting in a central server platform, and then he's actually just checking out the data and getting to know what exactly is happening. So I think these techniques, all these network vendors like Cisco and Qualcomm, and these guys are actually very bullish on the edge analytics side of things, because and related term is like fog computing, in which you have like a local infrastructure in a multitude of neighborhood, which is basically getting to understand the data and just sending that data which is useful at the central server side. So I think that is pretty important of what I mean when we talk about how we can separate junk out of the actual data, insightful data. And I think, and your second question was whether companies are actually making progress on the IoT scheme of things. So there was a very interesting survey that Bain conducted shortly. I think in details of that should also be online, which is known as IoT point of view. So as of now, I think only 10 to 15% of the companies are at a stage in which, and these are all like a mix of companies, which we had N of 533. So as of now, only 20%, in fact less than 20% companies are actually extensively executing IoT platforms, and a lot of people are still in the POC stage, and they're actually just thinking about it, what exactly to do, what exactly not to do. And in the next 5 years, companies are actually, companies think that they will be at a stage in which like 70, 80% of them would be implementing useful IoT out of that stuff. So it's still in ideation. It's a relatively new concept for many companies, and I think one of the important challenges is like how to, for industrial companies, how to integrate the operational technology with the IT. I mean, it's like heavy machinery we're talking about. We cannot make the investment overnight. We cannot actually change and just move those machineries. So, I mean, the more capital intensive the industry gets, it's more difficult to get, the IoT implementation in place. And one of the ironies of the situation is companies which have implemented IoT 5 years back, say for $1 million, I mean, they made an investment for $1 million. Today, if that company implements the same, they would get a much better technology at like half the price or even less than that. I mean, that's like a confusion in the minds of a lot of companies, when to make that investment, when to actually make that trigger. So a lot of things are actually coming up, but I think it again falls back to, if you have a use case, you should start backward and then really justify the investment that you want to make in that.
Thanks, Japtesh. We have time for one last question. Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My question is, disruption strategies are observed in retrospect. So does analytics has the power to predict or avoid those disruptions and help those poor implements?
This is regarding a particular industry, or you're talking in general?
In general.
Saurabh?
Yeah, I mean, disruptive part, right? That's what the key is. Everybody is trying to have the disruptions everywhere that we, because that's what leads to the new valuable insights that is not there, right? So, I mean, the example which I gave of the Foursquare, for example, I mean, it's, if I could put it here, in today's world, the investment bankers, when you meet the Wall Street guys, the only one thing that they have, the question to me or to us is, what's the alternate data source, right? That you can actually give me, help me in forecasting, right? The sales of a particular, say a company is. So for example, the disrupt, I mean, I'm giving small examples. It's not what you probably see in the news articles or, so the disruptive part that we actually are trying to do is like, leverage the social media data, for example, I was referring, but that's location-based now, the chatter aspect of it also. How we can marry that with the transactional data of a company and actually try to see the forecast. So, I mean, that's the top of my head. It really comes up because these are things which we are trying to do it, the alternative sources. So that's what it is.
Thank you, students. One question which I was expecting to be asked from the panel. What do you think are the challenges in near or far future in India and of course in general in implementation of a effective ecosystem of IoTs, and how AoT will give the right ROI to the companies who will going to invest now?
So I think the answer lies in your question itself. The biggest challenge for AoT or IoT is the simple word called ROI, right? We've had lots of questions, lots of students asking about different pieces. Would analytics be able to predict disruption? Would analytics be able to predict people's attitude, behavior, and all? The whole thing lies in the simple word called ROI. If today it makes sense for me to predict my wife's behavior, if I am able to do that, I would definitely put in all my money into doing that. Right? Unfortunately,
that's the pain area.
Unfortunately, can't do it right now. Okay, so it all depends on the ROI for the business. For example, if you have those huge tunnel boring machines which make tunnels and the ways for the metro, if one of that fails down, the cost is somewhere about 10 to 12 lakhs rupees a day, which gets bogged there just for the machine. Leave aside the human time and the project delay costs, right? So there, it makes sense to put in all the sensors, get IoT, AoT in place. But if it happens with the road roller or the Tillu pump in my house, doesn't make sense for me to put up money in IoT and AoT, right? Second piece, which was rightly pointed out in the answer before this, was the ever-changing technology. What's the right time for me to put in my money into it? So first I have to be very sure that the money is going to come. Second is, when do I put that money? Should I wait for whatever I have right now? Or should I wait for another 2 years for the technology to change? So I think these are two big challenges which companies need to answer before they think about IoT or AoT in this case.
Saurabh?
Yeah, I mean, IoT challenges implementation definitely is of the integration of different sources which are there, and the technology team that's what the tech guys keep on working on. Now, from analytics of things perspective, I would answer is one principle what we all have is our job is always to give 360-degree view of the customer, right? Now, 360-degree view when we talk about is macroeconomic to the customer behavior, to call it their purchase behavior, to their digital behavior, to whatever on personal level they do it. So that's all. That is what the thing is. That's what we keep evolving it with different sources, and we keep doing that. But is a bottom line for us from an analytic guy is getting all the data from different sources in a formatted manner to say.
So my view is, I wanted to answer your question. One is the skilled resource. We genuinely have a problem on the skilled resource who will be doing the implementation actually on the ground. Be it a device implementation, be it an integration with an application with an IoT platform or the cloud, or putting out the data, or some analytics on the from the sensor. The most important factor on today's IoT or be it an AoT is the ecosystem. So a company who has an IoT platform, a company who have the application in place, a company who have an IoT device to give you the service, and the most important, the telecom company who will provide the connectivity. Where actually you were lagging behind of the countries like US and Europe and all, because we were, on the connectivity front. So the connectivity is also a very important factor, but the metro cities, I mean the Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai and Bangalore have a proper, but if you go to tier 2, tier 3 cities where still the connectivity is an issue, a problem, we need to check that. We need to have a proper ecosystem in place. Now a lot of telcos like AT&T and Verizon of the world in US actually provides an end-to-end IoT solution to the enterprise customers, to B2B and B2Cs. Vodafone has started in India, Airtel has started, Aircel has started, Reliance Jio will also start. So all the telcos are actually coming in front, taking a help of companies like Intel and IBM, Cisco's and of the world, and they will be providing IoT solutions 2017, 18 onwards. So that's the future.
Just to add on, again, I'm reading from the Bain point of view a lot, because that interests me a lot. I mean, in Europe, still a lot of companies have figured out, telecom companies, how to price it up and how to get the connectivity in place. But in US, still a lot of companies are still figuring out how to price their IoT bandwidth. And until and unless they don't get like a novel method to understand how to price their connectivity bandwidth, I think that always remains a challenge, at least in the near future. Coming back to the question that Vikash just asked, like on the challenges, I think we talked it before, but security again remains the biggest challenge. And the irony of the situation is vendors do not consider it as big a challenge as the customers. So I think that synchronization of the perception needs to happen. I guess it should happen from the vendor side, because at the end of the day, customer is the king. So it needs to happen from that vendor side. And a lot of agencies have already predicted that in 2 years' time, there's going to be a huge security breach, because as of now, IoT is still in fancy stage. I mean, in some industries, but so a lot of hackers are not really interested in hacking those devices. But the day, it just goes out of magnitude, the renewed interest is going to be on those devices. And as of now, it's really in a very shabby kind of state. I mean, a lot of devices are subject to hacking. So I think, all in all, these things really are needs to be sorted out, I think, but should be.
Thanks, Japtej. I'll put down my mic here. I think it's time. I would like to thank all the panel members to answer all those interesting questions. I think a lot to learn, right?